Today on The Rundown, we are starting with the latest in tech news, breaking down the biggest stories and what they mean for you. Then, as we leave behind a season of reflection and connection, we're diving into our main topic, technology and religion. We'll explore how tech is reshaping spirituality from virtual congregations and apps to prayer and the ways that digital innovation challenges and enhances our traditions. So whether it's creating new spaces for faith or redefining how we gather and worship and connect, we're looking at the profound ways technology is intersecting with belief. Join us for our insights and analysis. Let's dive in. Welcome to The Rundown. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's good to see you all on a brisk night in Florida. But I'm not going to complain because we want to start tonight with prayers and thoughts and wishes for all of our friends, the people we know, the people we don't know who are in Los Angeles and who are really, really suffering. And I'm feeling especially grateful that one of our Los Angeles friends is here with us. Tamara, you live out in LA.
I do.
Welcome. Can you tell us
you.
how are you, first of all?
So I'm good. I mean, I'm about 7 miles away from the Eaton Canyon fire, but I'm in, like, it would have to be mass destruction in completely the wrong direction for it to get to me. So I'm outside of the fire zone specifically, not outside of the bad air quality, and in some cases in our area, bad water quality. So, you know, for me and my family, I'm super thankful. All of my family is doing really well. I have lots of friends who have lost homes in both Eaton Canyon and Pacific Palisades and in some of these other fires that are popping up. So it is a wild time to be in Los Angeles. Like, if we weren't talking about fires, we would be discussing this massive wind event, because lots of other damage happened, you know, which is what we kind of are dealing with in our areas, like trees down. My friend's car had woke up to a tree on top of it. So, like, it's a massive event. And then the fires were exacerbated because of that. But if we weren't talking about those fires, we would be talking about a significant weather event in Los Angeles.
And you had mentioned somewhere about an app that apparently everyone's using.
Yeah, the app that everyone is using is called Watch Duty, which is the premier place to watch across the country. It tracks hotspots and active fires. So if you look at the Los Angeles region, there's fires that pop up. It'll also tell you the warning zones. And so if you zoom into that, you can get to the Los Angeles area. It's a little niggly using the map, to be honest with you. But when you log in, it will tell you all of the things about each of those fires. So our newest fire that just popped up within this afternoon was the Kenneth fire. It'll tell you everything that they know up to that point, and then the red or orange area are the fire zones and the evacuation zones, and the yellow areas are the warning areas. So the yellow, you're basically preparing a bag, getting your stuff ready in case that becomes you are required to evacuate. Wow. So I have lots of people who are in that orange area. I'm just outside that yellow area, so I'm, you know, in a pretty safe location in terms of fire, but definitely not in terms of air quality. And you know, you'll hear me. I'm a little raspy today. I have asthma, so I'm trying not to go outside. It's pretty like. My neighborhood has ash all over it. It's just raining. It looks like it's snowing. It looks like it's faintly snowing. It's really kind of crazy here. Wow. You know, just a lot of craziness and a lot of misinformation that has been kind of spread. So being on the internet, reading people's comments, wild, absolutely wild. Like the things people are saying, I'm like, check yourself. These are humans. These are human people who've had a significant loss. And as someone I had my house burned down, it is not just
not in this fire.
Not in this fire, a long time ago. But even now, it's a significant loss, and I think we
Oh,
have to
sure.
really just keep in our thoughts and minds that it doesn't really matter what people's status is or whatever. They've lost a lot of their life, and it will be for years to come where they will realize, hey, where's that thing? Oh yeah, that was in the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
So it's really significant and a lot of pain.
Well, thank you, and we're glad that you're safe, and thank you for
Thank you.
sharing
I'm
that with
very
us. And
I
yeah,
can sympathize with you because up here we have the same thing. We have forest fires that clear out the sky and you can't breathe outside
yep.
and you have to wear a mask. And I can't because I have lung issues. I can't. So my house is all sealed up in the summertime if there's smoke. And
Yeah.
it's like, Blade Runner 2054, orange sky kind of stuff. We also have displaced people who have lost,
Hmm.
like, we had a whole city burnt down last summer, and all those people just moved down the highway to us and into BC. And that displaces people, and then they have services they need and banking they need and all
Right.
the rest, and it has to come back. And it's very complicated the more people you have. So we had a whole Fort McMurray, 80,000 people evacuated. We had the town of Jasper, which is a tourist location here, and that's half gone. And
yeah,
I know
And
people who live in Jasper, and it's not nice. Yeah.
And these are our neighborhoods. These are places we go. So even if we
Yeah.
don't live there, these are part of our lifestyle, part of our places. Like even Palisades is
Yeah.
very far from me, but I go to their farmers market. And so like when I see pictures, I'm like, but I was just there. Like I know those
Hmm.
places. Those are
Yeah.
part of our lives as Angelinos.
so
One of the
that
concerns is breathing, and my husband always checks
Hmm.
the air quality because he has breathing issues. And when the fires were so bad here one year, we went out and we bought some two air filtration systems, and it really, really helped because we could shut the house up and run these, and it would just take the smoke and ash out of the air. And so
Yes. I
I
have
hope
one as
that
well.
you're
Yeah, I
getting
have
this
that
made.
too. Because I spend a lot of time tracking the API of our area and our air quality. I've got like 4 apps on my phone. Right after the initial fires happened, it went up to almost 600, which is as high as it can go. So, like for me, if it gets into the hundreds, I'm like, oh, if you have a lung issue, then people like me, sensitive groups, have a problem. Once you get into that, it's like anyone with a lung has an issue going outside. So it's
Mhm.
really it's definitely something that like
Yeah.
is affecting everybody.
so
My
I've
neighbors log
Tamara,
into the purple air that we have in our neighborhood, and they when it went offline, I got calls like, "It's Dave. The purple air is not working. We need to."
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
I'd love to hear next week.
I've lost the
from-
ability to introduce people. Hold on, Sky. So
So sorry.
wait a second. So Dave, hello, good to see you. I'm
How
skipping
do you
over you.
do?
Already talked
Yes.
already.
You know,
Lois,
it's ironic that everybody else is in the cold and we're +4 up here.
Right.
So everything's melting here in Canada, and you guys are freezing to death. So
and Lois, you are where? Where are you calling in from tonight?
Oh, I'm on vacation, and so I'm in Hawaii. So
Beautiful.
my problem is heat, not cold.
Heat. Well, we should all have such problems, but be safe. And thank you for being here. And I also want to give a really special welcome to my friend across the pond, who I have no idea what time it is anymore. Where you are, I don't even know where you are. Where are you?
It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm in the Dolomites in Italy. It's about -4 here at the moment. So
Leo,
that's in centigrade. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. I have no idea.
you know
Why
I
would
love you,
know?
but this whole 3 a.m. thing.
Well, you set the time of the
I know.
program.
No,
Unless you've worked out a way of doing it another way, I have to.
You can
turn up
blame
when you
Alex
say.
for that, actually.
So
Alex is the one who said,
that's
this
it,
is the
so.
best time. I'm so glad that you're here,
It's
Leo.
fine. It's fine. It's fine. It works. It works when I can do it.
Thank you.
There you go.
And Ernesto, by the way, is watching. He says, happy Thursday. He's got a freeze warning in Arizona. It's below 30s. It's below 30s. Wow. And I am Fatness is watching, and my future son-in-law is watching. Okay. I am also extraordinarily happy to be able to welcome my dear friend, Sky Gleason. How are you, Sky?
I'm sitting in a blistery 36 degrees of Seattle, Washington, but we do not have the smoke, which we have had inherited from various parts of the world before. But so yes, Tamara, I am very empathetic with what's going on in a disaster. I am curious that I will ask next week. I've chosen to participate in disasters in a helpful way in the past, in coming along however I can, and I've seen the best in humanity in the worst of disasters. I would be very curious next week to hear how the best in humanity has gotten out of its social media head and into helping one another.
Mm.
That is my hope.
Yeah.
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 I'll hear the report next week.
Hopefully. I'm really happy to have you here, and so is Tony Mobley, who's watching us. Hi, Tony. Good to see
Hi,
you.
Tony.
Okay, so we've done the rounds. We've sent our love. It's time for some news. So we've got a few different news items today. The first one, I'm not sure this is even a news item, but I saw it and it both scared me and intrigued me. And that is that every single news outlet ran footage last week of the terrorist who plowed into a group of people and then started shooting in the French Quarter in New Orleans. He apparently scoped out the site using Meta glasses. This was many people's first introduction to Meta glasses. These glasses that you can wear, and they're like the Snapchat glasses. You know, they don't do much. They take pictures, they take video. I think they have bone conduction speakers in them. So you know, this is not the new thing that Meta announced or you know, said that they were building. This is the old thing. I'm less interested in the fact that this guy wore Meta glasses and more interested in the way that the news saw this as a news story. I mean, was anyone surprised by that? Did anyone see it, or am I the only one?
Well, we often hear about terrorists having special technology. And this, I guess, is what the news guys felt was the controversy, is this guy did it differently than everybody else. The rest all looked at a map, walked around the neighborhood, took a few shots, and made their plan. But he seems to have used a special glasses system, which Meta, of course, has had out for a little while, but got a new set, even powerful, coming out in about a year. So
yeah. And by the way, every time this happens, the technology gets blamed in one way or the other, right? You know, that, if he hadn't had these, then...
Oh, that's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. I agree.
I mean, if he hadn't had those glasses, well, then he maybe could have had a little spy camera or a little video.
Or a notepad.
Phone. Or if he's before that, he could have walked around and taken pictures.
Right.
People are going to do what they're going to do no matter what technology they use.
Absolutely.
I agree with that, but I think that it does play into the narrative of kind of the trope of the supervillain, right? Who has a lot of technology at their disposal, and we're seeing a lot more technology being used in high profile criminal cases, and I think that that's why it's become a news story.
Well, I was at a picnic once and I tickled a policeman. He grabbed an egg and smashed it on my head. And it happened so fast. And he says, everything can be used as a weapon. I thought, well, from a policeman's point of view, that he's been trained. And so I'm so glad Tamara brought out that, and Lois both, that yes, the media's job is to sell advertising space. So they're going to scream about the most horrific thing that's going to keep your attention for the next 20 seconds, because that's all they've got, right?
Right.
And so it's going to be 20 seconds of bang, bang, bang. And so it must have been a slow news day otherwise. And that was what, filtered through the Reuters and the API.
In fairness to the media, they may only
we don't have to be fair to the media.
No, that's true. We don't have to be fair. But, we may only, they may only want to give us 15 or 20 seconds.
Yeah.
But we also only want to receive 15 or 20 seconds. I mean, we are so accustomed to just reading the headline and just, taking that quick, give me the information in 10 seconds or less, that they don't have a lot of time to give us that important context that is really vital when it comes to these technological tools, I think.
You're familiar with
I think
Go ahead,
I think
Leah.
what I would say in this, and it's and this is the same with all technology, the media want to find a solution that is not taking a person to be blamed, but something that they can blame that isn't the actual person. So it's always the technology. It's that electric cars do this to the environment, or this does that to their something. It's always trying to find an angle that is trying to find something that they can blame that can't sue them. And so they try and push it in a direction that they will move it away from it being an individual. And you see it all the time. And also it happens, particularly when media don't understand a technology.
Yes.
So the easiest solution is to blame it for it being the fault. So it's the same argument that we have, that every new technology comes out that the adult industry uses, they blame the technology for the use, not the actual where things are being going. And it's just a constant cycle that happens over and over again.
And,
What's interesting
Meta
about it,
can
though,
sue them. So,
what's interesting is that it kind of buries a bigger lead, which is there's a certain socioeconomics involved in the fact that he's using Meta glasses. These are not cheap, and it's not something that everybody has. So I think that there's a little bit, by focusing on the technology, they're also losing the fact that he used a high impact car that he had to rent, which is at a higher cost. So this is a very different kind of a crime than we've seen in other things too. It's not quite as homegrown as we've kind of seen in past terrorist kind of attacks. So I feel like by focusing on the technology, they're kind of focusing on the wrong aspect of the technology.
Tamara, that's a fascinating take on this.
Journalistic phrase, if it bleeds, it leads, still exists.
Yeah. But Tamara, your approach, I hadn't thought of that. That's really fascinating. Lois, go ahead.
So I think one of the things that we are in this room perhaps forgetting is that we know a lot more about technology than most people. And if the people who are doing the reporting of the crime are not the technology reporters, it may be surprising to them that someone could use this sort of technology. And so it may be that they're playing towards the audience that they think they have that doesn't know much.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fair. Absolutely. All right. Speaking of those of us in this room, remember Zoom fatigue? So we spent so much time talking about Zoom fatigue in office hours and everywhere else. Well, there's a new report out about Zoom fatigue in 2025 and what we can do to overcome it, to not have it. And part of what they found is this. What's the dysmorphia? Zoom dysmorphia is having to look at yourself, seeing yourself, and when you don't hide self view. Excuse me. Also, having to have sustained eye contact with multiple people, and then all the things that we've talked about: the poor video quality, the poor audio quality, the poor lighting, all those different things. One of the suggestions they have here is not to stop using these technologies, but to do many short meetings as opposed to long, drawn out seats. And I have felt for a long time, since we're going to be getting into religion in a second, I felt for a long time that every house of worship should have at least one Zoom account that's on the free plan, which has a 40-minute limit. And all of their board meetings should be held on that Zoom account, so that they cannot go more than 40. Like, it just stops. The meeting just stops at 40 minutes. What do you think? Are we going to be right back with Zoom fatigue again? Have we figured it out yet? What's your take on this? Go ahead, Lois.
I think the synchronization problem, you see my mouth moving and then you hear the words. And we have that problem today, in fact, in this very meeting. But that is one of the things that makes your brain really tired. because you're looking at someone, you're trying to understand them. You know, I don't hear really well, so I read lips a little bit, and they're doing it, and then there's voice. And so that's one of the problems I think that we have is lack of synchronization.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah.
Agreed.
Sound in general, right? Like we hang out with people who have leaned into the Zoom dysmorphia, right? Instead of saying, oh, we're tired of that, we're like, tell me what's wrong with my picture so I can fix it. Like we're the outliers of
That's
anybody in a
fascinating.
Zoom meeting ever
Mhm.
because we're willing to hear the criticism. We're like,
Right.
you know, oh, this is too close, this is too far. What does this sound like? So for us, we're probably not the best people to decide. I also can do a 14-hour Zoom meeting because like I'm trained, man. You know, so, but those are the people we hang out with. Now, I do
Yes.
think that sound has completely changed the game. The things that Zoom has done with noise cancellation has completely changed it from what it was in 2020. And also, you know, for us, we're all on microphones that, you know, sound good, that are leveled out at the same level. So I think that makes a big difference. So I do think that as more people really lean into what it can sound like and what it can be like, then the Zoom fatigue will go down. But they did talk a lot about dysmorphia, and I was like, oh, we're the wrong people because we ask for
That
criticism.
is so funny. I never thought of that we are like the opposite of the dysmorphia folks. Like, no, tell me, let me look at, like, I want a confidence monitor, right? That's what we want to see ourselves. Leo, go ahead.
And we use teleprompters too, so
Exactly.
we're like way
Right.
up there, right? I was
so
trained
Dave,
Hold on
to
one
be
second.
on
Let me get
television.
Leo in.
Yeah.
Hold on one second.
Okay, so there's a few things on this that I think are really important. First of all, I do live production, so I have to bring people in who are say, I do Zoom all the time, I'm brilliant at it, and then you have to sit there and tell them where the issues are. Now, I know that I am actually on a remote location today, so I'm not got the camera that I normally have. The other thing is that I will go further than where Lois was saying about, I don't think the lip sync's the problem. The majority of the problem is that they are sitting on virtual backgrounds. When you make somebody who's watching have to understand that their brain has got to calculate what's the problem with the background, and on top of that, they've got to, as already said, the audio is poor. You're making somebody have to work twice as hard to hear you. And when you make somebody spend twice as hard to hear you, it's no surprising that they're getting fed up doing it.
So in this study, it's Dr. Heng Zhang at Nanyang Technological University in Singapore said that assess the level of fatigue that people felt after video conferencing. I wonder, let me see if I can pull this up for you. It's not zooming for some reason. I was going to try and zoom it for you. And he says, I'm sorry, I can't make that bigger. He says they found that a virtual video background, such as a moving image of palm trees. Am I looking the wrong way? No, I'm looking the right way. Palm trees swaying and waves crashing on a beach was linked to the highest levels of fatigue, followed by blurred backgrounds. That's interesting.
This is actually a rehash of a report that came out in 2020 on LinkedIn.
In many ways.
Because it even has the palm trees on the back.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so he
says it's been used a number of times.
So he says those seeing a static virtual background experience the least fatigue, especially if it was nature-based image, which separate. And that's I would disagree with that. But although the study didn't assess the impact of people using their real background, Zhang, who uses a tree and mountain-based backdrop for his own video call, suspects a static image may still be better. If you have your own office, it's okay. But if you're in a coffee shop or working outside, there may be people walking behind you. The idea basically is keep it simple, I think, is what he's going for.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I mean, it can be real. This is a real background.
But it's static.
You
That's
can
the
have
key.
real, but it has to reduce the amount of strain that somebody who's watching it. And I'm not saying that green screen backgrounds are bad. They're okay if you can light them.
If you know how to light them, they're fine. But if you don't,
they're fine. But if you can't, you're wasting the we had this discussion a long time ago in office hours. The authenticity. You want to be authentic, and if you are saying I am fake, I'm not going to tell you what's behind me. I'm not going to tell you anything about me.
Oh God,
then
Dave.
I am fake. Please do not believe a word I'm saying. Don't believe anything Lois and Dave are saying at the moment.
Okay,
but you brought up a great
Dave,
point,
what
though,
did you
Leo,
do?
because
Oh my
everybody tells so many so many things about like, oh, I've been on Zoom before, and you bring them in and they're like, no, I've done Zoom before. And you realize, no, you really haven't done Zoom before. You've done what you think is Zoom, and you cannot talk people out of those virtual backgrounds.
Okay, we're
I work
definitely
with
going to have to wait
writers
a second.
all the time, and they want to
Wait a
put them in the
second.
back.
I gotta
I
go to
wanna get
Dave.
in.
Dave, hold on one second.
Yeah.
I'm coming right to you. We're gonna have to do a whole like hour on this because I can tell that we're never getting off it. I just want to bring in real quick John Snyder, who says he's convinced that Zoom fatigue is more a consequence of people multitasking and not actively listening than AV quality. That's interesting. I
That's a good
definitely
point.
multitask when I do that. Dave, over to you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to take you back a little bit. I paid a lot of money to get trained to be on TV and to make TV and to read teleprompters and do all that stuff. So for me, being on camera, no big deal. Paying attention to the camera, no big deal. However, you're right. Distractions, things around you in your room, they're going to take you off you're going to stop listening. I got hired as a contractor for 4 years to travel around all of Alberta to 100 different head offices and teach people how to do video conferencing. And they didn't learn a thing. So they only learned to work the machine. They did not learn anything about how to reduce fatigue, how to pay attention, how to be lit properly. I couldn't go that far because they just weren't interested. They were busy doing their jobs. The other thing is that this authenticity is one thing, but authority is the other. And we learned in broadcast, that you have authority when you're reading the news. You have to have that voice. You have to deliver in a way that makes people want to listen to you. And for people who make commercials, you have to have narration that draws people in and images that make it work. Well, nothing changes in a Zoom call. Just me talking and the background's there. This is real. This is me and my stuff, but I'm in the lonely log cabin. So I've set this up I've got 5 lights around me. I mean, I'm okay. And I got a very expensive microphone here. I don't think it's fatigue. I think this cognitive dissonance is real, that listening to a person talking through a screen is not connecting with them and the brain is just struggling. And then when you add all the distractions and all the layering of just, low quality video smear and backgrounds that move, and it's all trying to distract, and that's not what we're here for. We're here to make connections.
Dave, you're in the wrong business. What?
I'm in the right, but I'm still training people.
Okay.
There's an incubator here that has me in twice a year to show their new entrepreneurs how to come across on Zoom.
All right, Sky, I'm coming to you.
Well, I'm looking at Tamara because we are in the industry of communications into an eyeball. And that is what I try to help people understand is, do you have training as a camera operator? Do you have training as a lighting person? Do you have training as an audio engineer? Do you have training as a news presenter? Do you have training? Then when they say, oh, I've done lots of Zoom calls, I am being paid by that executive, so I can't insult them in person. But I can try to come alongside them because there is a need, because I started in high school helping people dress appropriately. And in a Brooks Brothers suit, you were sharp. You commanded respect just walking in the room because you felt good. And consequently, to be articulate is also my acting training. I don't need to project to the back of the room because I've got a microphone to do that, but I've got 30 years that tells me that. So these are the coming alongside the need and this question of, I love, it's not Zoom fatigue. I love, Leo pointed out, it's technology fatigue, but it's not even that. It's we have the tools but we don't know how to use them. Somebody handed us a machine gun full of bullets and we found the trigger. And here we are.
Guys,
Sorry,
I just want to
ranting
this
on.
very quickly, or we'll be here forever. The one thing with this that will improve it, and it is improving it, is that the technology, the cameras, the sound, Tamara's already talked about it, the quality of the equipment, because you can't leave it to the end user. Because in the majority of cases, the end user doesn't care. Right. We only went to good quality, high quality audio on a phone call on our phones when they shifted it. If anybody ever picks up an analog phone and goes, how did we listen to people and talk that way? Well, that's what we used to do.
Right.
And we've got to go that way. The problem, I think, is we ended up stepping into this area of virtual backgrounds. And I wonder when there's power to do it, if the virtual background will be disappearing and being replaced with something better.
And by the way, when last week we brought up the idea of anonymity, and that we're going to talk about that at some point. In some ways, virtual backgrounds plays into this idea of being able to kind of hide parts of who you are or where you are. It's really fascinating. Lois, you've been so patient. Did you want to jump in?
I do. I teach people how to use their computers or technology, whatever. That's one of the things that I do. And a lot of times we have to work for several hours. But I know people's brains don't retain material when you're learning something new after a certain period of time. So if I'm doing something for someone, like I'm going to help you, I'm going to get this set up for you, it doesn't matter how long it is. But if I'm teaching them, we stop just after an hour, do a little bit of review, and we're done before an hour and a half is up, because their brain is just not going to be able to absorb enough. And I think that's one of the things we're calling it Zoom fatigue, when it really might be that people are trying to rush their brains for too long at a time.
Fair enough. We may not have to do any of this in a little while, because the computers are coming to take over. In a blog post by Sam Altman, I believe it was at the end of last week. Sam Altman is the CEO or the head honcho over at OpenAI. He wrote, "We are now confident we know how to build AGI as we've traditionally understood it." AGI is artificial general intelligence. So that's not the chatbot will talk back to me, which I will admit is amazing enough. Like, for me, like, that alone blows my mind, that I can literally have meaningful conversations with this computer. But in 2025, we may see the first AI agents join the workforce and materially change the output of companies. This AGI has been, for the past 2 decades, what everyone wants. That's been the goal. Now, I'm sure that there will be a new goal, or there are new goals. I'm sure with what are those computers we talked about them last time that we didn't understand, Lois? The not supercomputers.
I wasn't here last time.
What am I talking?
Oh, you're talking about the not the nanos, but the
No, not the supercomputers. Whatever.
yeah.
There's going to be another goal, but for the past 20 years, this has been the goal. And Sam Altman says, this year, it's happening. Do you buy it? Do you think we're going to actually get that? And how much will it change the world?
The only time I will accept a computer as intelligent when it says to me, "I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that."
Yes, Hal, we heard you.
I think my view of this is yes, but nothing is like a switch. It's not going to be that all of a sudden we're going to have it's all here. You are seeing it in certain areas already. You're seeing that the intelligence of the chatbots that you deal with when you're actually talking to your mobile phone provider are getting better and better and better. And why are they getting better? Because they're getting more input in, they're getting more tuned into what you actually need. Because at the end of the day, most of us actually say the same things. It's the thing we don't realize. We, as the intelligent people, actually just repeat the same stuff. We talk about the weather. Well, the Brits do. We talk about the weather, where the Canadians do that as well. We just do the same stuff over and over again. So something's just going, right, there's a list of 5 things. This is it. And by the end of an hour, they're already bored, as we've just heard. So we've done it. We're sorted.
Yeah. I do think that I agree with you that it's a process, that it's going to happen slowly. I do think, though, that there are moments of dramatic shift. I'll tell you, one of those moments for me was when I first heard, I think it was ChatGPT, but it could have been Gemini, but one of those two, the conversation, it was definitely OpenAI, it was ChatGPT. When I heard the voice, and that voice sounded so drastically different than Siri or Alexa or any of those, when it actually sounded like a human being, that to me was a a drastic shift. And I wonder if this jump to AGI will feel drastic, or as you're saying, Leo, will feel more of a progression. Sky, do you want to jump in?
Are you fit? Yeah. Are you fit?
People will come to realize what it is. I mean, right now, you talk to a chatbot or you type in something or whatever, and you can hear a voice. So I don't see that normal people are going to see a big difference, even if it's AGI instead of AI.
Okay. Sky, go ahead.
Normal people.
You know,
That-
regular folk,
Well, you already qualified us earlier as outside
non-normal, yeah.
non-normal in a technological way, but I also remember when I saw a sat phone on a person sitting on a camel in the middle of a desert, and my brain went, what? But that's not right. They need copper cable. They need all the stuff all that old technology that, no, they don't. The Bedouins are perfectly happy using satellite phones because they need to be in communication with their families. And that's the technology that again, England has far better quality digital imagery on television than the United States did, because it evolved in a certain systems and what was embedded, and came to HD earlier than the United States did. So that whole leapfrogging of technology. I'm going to introduce a character who I saw this question about, and he's Ray Kurzweil.
Yeah.
If
Love
you're
him.
not familiar with him, he lit up my brain. Well, originally in the 80s when I saw the Kurzweil synthesizer. It had his name all over the back of it. Well, he's now a researcher at AI for Google. And Dave, you lit my brain up when I saw your podcast, this experience last week or a couple weeks ago, and you introduced me to Notebook
LM.
LM. And I was hanging out with Leo at 3 a.m. in Seattle. Or I wasn't hanging out with him, but I was up until 3 a.m. because I could not put that down, because I have been outsourced, replaced, functionally displaced because of technology so many times. I'm working on Sky at least 5.0 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And people said, how can you do that? And I look at them and think, how can I not?
Yeah. We have to be able to iterate and reinvent ourselves. Steve, I don't think it was Claude. I do think it was OpenAI. And this is important. John, as always, is keeping me honest. And I think this is actually really important. He says that Sam's his definition of AGI has changed already a few times this year, and that we really need other people to weigh in and agree.
Two notes for the audience as a footnote or asterisk here. One is quantum computer was what we were talking about last time. And that's a super fast computer, which everybody thinks you can just program for AI, and no, you can't. Jeffrey Hinton is another name in this, and he's the counter to that idea. He says, we'll never get there because it'll cost too much.
So, yeah, that's a fascinating argument, especially when you think about. I don't agree either. I mean, look at the new computer that NVIDIA just put out, right? Was it NVIDIA? That little LLM computer.
Yeah, but the human being, I am literally in the middle of a mountain, right? I'm in a warm place environment. We will find solutions to every problem we can put forward. And we will find a solution to this, and we will, if we want to do it, we will actually do it, and we will get there, and we will find the solution for it. And particularly in computing, the way it's moving, how fast it's changing, and we all know about Moore's law and how that extends things. The things are just going to move across, and what you think is natural speech will be changed, and it changes. I use a lot of translation these days to translate. Where I'm here in Italy, I'm translating between English and Italian all the time, and it's so fast. It's so fast. It's so clever, and it now understands the nuances which it didn't in the past. It understands the differences, which is it's just amazing. So it's doing it real time.
Japan. For 3 weeks in Japan, I used Google Translate every time I interfaced with a retailer person. They loved it because then they didn't have to worry about it. It
I
made
use
them
it.
give
I
less
use it every
fatigue.
day. The people who clean
me
my
too.
my office, they're all Hispanic. I don't speak Spanish. I literally, if I need toilet paper, I have to use Google Translate. It's unbelievable. It really is. A
And-
real
and
quick, I'm coming to you, Tamara. Real quick, or was it Lois? Someone was waving and screaming.
it was
and,
Lois.
I'm just saying hello to Hershey, who's watching. Go ahead, Lois. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So we are 2/3 of the way through our hour, and I would
Yeah, I noticed that.
like to jump to the religious part, and anything else can wait till next week.
Well, yes, or because
Or we move
I've been
the
paying
religious part.
attention to that, or we could put the religious part off to next week because okay, I'm just going to bring up the last story and let's see what happens. Okay, because I have to say I think this is actually quite a big deal. What's his name?
Zuckerberg.
Yeah, him. Zuckerberg. Oh, by
His
the way,
word
Jack
finding
Smith.
is getting worse, isn't it?
Wait, before we go on, hold on a second. Before we go on, Jack Smith is mentioning that the latest ChatGPT requires $1,000 of energy per query.
Mm.
Now that number will come down. I mean, it's not going to stay at $1,000. It's $1,000 now. That will come down. But yeah, the sustainability of this, the renewability of this, the finances of this is all really important. And he says there's no known technical solution to this energy consumption problem. Agreed. There isn't right now. That doesn't mean that there may not be. David Brady, relying on machine translation is convenient, but nuances are lost. Have you had that experience in translation about nuances
Totally.
being lost?
Yes.
You have, Leo? You're
I
shaking your head
did.
the other way.
I used to.
Okay.
I would say if you were asking this question even 6 months ago, I'd say yes. I'd say that now, in the last 3 months, it's getting better
gotten
and
better,
better
yeah.
and better.
Yeah.
And of course it will. It will iterate. It'll iterate. On the energy, there's enough energy that comes off the sun on one day to power the whole of everything we do for a year. So we've just got to work out how to harness it. It's another problem that we have to solve rather than it being a problem that can't be solved.
Yep. All right. All right. I'm moving on. I'm forcing myself. So Zuckerberg announced in a video, he said, we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms. Zuckerberg said in a video, more specifically, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. And he pointed to the election as a major influence on the company's decision and criticized governments and legacy media for pushing to censor more and more. Now, we've talked quite a bit about the responsibility or the lack of responsibility of social media companies to I don't want to use the word censor, but to manage their platforms and perhaps also what is being said. This is, and I don't want to get into the politics of this because that's not what interests me, but what does interest me is this is a significant shift from 4 years ago, or 8 years ago, I should say. No, was it 4? Was it in 20? No, it was 16. From 8 years ago, significant shift, and of Meta saying, and following in line with Twitter and X, saying, have at it, world. Have at it. Say whatever you want. We're not going to fact check you anymore. Do facts not matter in social media at all?
Politics matters more than facts. And I know you said you don't want to talk about politics.
Right,
I
but
don't
it is
think it's
politics.
possible to talk about this without talking about politics.
I also think it has a lot to do with AI because I mean, I'm surprised at how many times I'll be following, they'll show on my Instagram this amazing hotel in California. I'm like, that is amazing. And then I click on it and it says made with AI. So I'm not sure that fact checking in the world as we are right now is easy to do. And when I read that, I was like, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think we're getting to a point where how do you know? And maybe this is the best time for them as a corporation to just cut ties and go, hey, you all tell us if it's right or wrong and we'll figure it out, because I think that the variables are so large now that I think that is a totally different task than it was 8 years ago.
So you think this is Meta trying to protect themselves against flagging the wrong thing as being misinformation and basically putting it on us?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Really?
Absolutely. I think it's also it's money, right? This is money. This is like there's no possible way for us to win here. So the easiest thing to do is outsource it to the community. And we see that in a lot of things. Again, I would like to live in a world where we are fact checked because there's so much craziness going around. However, I completely, as much as I have lots of things I don't agree with, I can understand how a decision like that would be made.
Mhm.
I would like to live in a world where critical thinking is actually a part of the human species.
Ding, 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 you win.
Yes. Win.
And
There it is.
this is
Bingo.
giving the reins back to the humanity and
Yeah.
saying, if you want to shoot yourself, you can. We only make the bullets. And
Mhm.
that's the old argument.
Right.
But back to Lois's point about politics, my neighbors had the best comment from his dad, and I love it. You learn from your elders. There were good politics, and there's bad politics, but there's never no politics.
Right.
Yeah. I think
This is where I jump in and say, we all got to take responsibility for how the world is. And
Mhm.
this is one of the ways Meta can say, well, it's now up to you to fact check. Do it yourself. You've done it before there was an internet, and you can do it now with the internet, and you should be able to handle it.
We
And
obviously
I
can't
always
tell you
fact
what to
checked way
believe.
back when. Yeah. If you think you can tell me what to believe, then you're a fool.
Yeah, I think there's from seeing it from from an outside perspective, particularly around, and I know I'm going on to the election that just happened. The way major media portrayed what the results could have been before as facts just shows how absolutely wrong the ability to prove, because they're saying this is the fact, it's going to be a very close race, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, and then you sit there and go, well, why are you the people making the decisions of what's fact? We also have a real problem at the moment, which I'm sure you're aware of, that we have a certain CEO or whatever he is of X telling our elected officials in the UK what he thinks they should be doing without the full facts. And there is a grey area. Is he right? Are they right? Well, the reality that I think we're all coming to in everything is there's no such thing as right in facts and these things, apart from, the idea, even science will tell you the whole objective of science is to continue disproving something works rather than just believing that it's right. That's what science is
David
about.
Brady says
we have to get there.
David Brady says, kind of like the movie Multiplicity, what is the truth after multiple iterations of an original? Yeah.
And I think it goes back to the idea of, is Facebook or Meta things, are they news? And so from there, are they as a company required to do the same thing that a news organization is required to do? And what he's saying is no, we are just a platform where people are posting content. And the more he distances himself away from that responsibility, he can say, look, we're not a news organization. We are not required to do the same things. And I think that's what they're doing.
The biggest problem I have with this, we aren't going to have third-party fact checkers anymore, is that the companies still, they choose what to show you. They choose what's going to show up on your screen. I may be looking at this wonderful video, but over here on the side, there's all these things. I didn't pick those. Somebody else picked those. And as long as they are continuing to twist your input, they're not being hands-off. They're not being, well, you all just do it because we can't.
But that's why I think they're doing this, right? Because as we're seeing high profile crimes happening where they're utilizing this technology, they are trying to insulate themselves from being responsible. So they're not going to be responsible for fact checking that didn't happen. They're going to push the narrative that we are just a delivery tool and what people do has nothing to do with us. You're right, Lois, they do control that algorithm. And so there's a point of that. But I think this saying we're not going to fact check is a declaration of, hey, we can't be tied to these crazy things that occur on our platform. And I think that's really what this is about.
I think
I
it's
drove
getting
by a
in
whole
with the
lot
new
of
party.
advertising this afternoon, and it was up there, and I didn't have any input on whether those billboards could be in my way. And now we have electronic billboards that distract you and have video on them. So I never had any input on that, and that's because advertising doesn't let you have any input.
But
Yeah,
we are Google's product, and people pay good money to know what we are interested in. By simply saying a single word, all of a sudden we do apparently have something to say about what is put in front of us now on these new modern mobile devices.
So John
And I think
Snyder,
coming back to
hold on one
something we
second.
said,
Let me just read. John
on.
Snyder was mentioning they don't choose per se; they reinforce what piques your interest. So they're just feeding back to us what we're asking them to give back to us. And
It's
Jack
the big
Smith,
mirror.
right? And Jack Smith says if they can't be responsible for the content they show. Excuse me. If they can't be responsible for the content they show you, they should not be companies. I'm not sure about that.
I mean, I think that,
Leo.
and I know we're going to cover this on another show sometime because it's a great idea and I had it, which is about anonymity. And
No,
the
wait.
problem-
Hold on. If you want us to do a whole show on that, you have to be able to say the word. You just
That's
you were
right.
like,
I can't.
You
It's
put
one
an
of those
extra
words I just
syllable in
can't
there.
say. But the point is, like we talked when we were talking about Zoom, and we're saying that the input, the quality of the input quantifies and makes the output better. You have exactly the same problem on the social media platforms. You go on and somebody will post something that you can see anybody who's got will go 23 followers, the account's been set up that long, and they're coming out with this. How do they know these facts? And you realize that that's how, as a human being, you do it. The problem is, at the moment, there is no control. There's absolutely no control as to who can post and how. So consequently, the quality of what you're getting in garbage. So the reality is, if you are sifting in garbage, all you can do is polish, and I can't say the next word.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the great setup for religion, isn't it?
polishing the
Look at
turd.
All the time.
Wait, what?
No, in the sense of a thing that is repeated, a tradition, a people group that gather, a influence, the original influencers from your elder, the handing it down. So I'm sorry, we only have 7 minutes to finish
Well,
that.
no,
topic.
we've been going until 15 after the hour anyway. But yeah, so can I
need to do
encore.
yeah, but
different time.
I just actually want to say though that Dave, you're, and this goes back to Sky, what you were just mentioning, Dave, when you sort of made the analogy between social media and ads on social media and the road sign, I take issue with that because the road sign has a very limited audience, and the social media ad has a limitless audience in comparison.
They're placed where the most people are. They're not placed out in the middle of nowhere. They're put where all the people are going.
Thousands of people who see the road sign.
Yeah.
You will have
Do you know how many
hundreds
people
of
drive
millions.
by my house every day?
But you could have tens of millions who may see that social media ad.
But are they going to pay attention to it? Yes.
Yeah, but David, the difference is the road sign, is an advert. There's no
Right.
question.
Fair enough.
It looks like a billboard. It's stuck up on a big pole and it's there.
And it
Half of the
quacks, yeah.
posts that you now see on Facebook, you're halfway through really, hold on, actually, that's not a real post. It's an advert. And you don't realize it. You think it. And of course, why is it like that? Because we know that people don't follow advertising. So what they have to do is they have to cloak advertising in something that makes people think that they're actually seeing and dealing with a real person. So you just expand this, and this is what social influencing is. This is all of those things. And then we know, regardless of what you want to say, narratives are moved by influencing in certain directions. I'm not 100% sure and convinced that all of the stuff that came out of the election 4 years ago, which was claimed happened. However, it doesn't mean to say there hasn't been influences on both sides. Why? Because people who are into a thing to win will find any way they can to win. And so consequently,
Whether it
it
works
will
or not.
happen.
Yes.
But also
Whether
the
it works or not, they'll
information,
try it.
the information is passed by someone you trust. So someone sees something and they think it sounds credible and they pass it on to their post, and someone you trust that you believe in, that you believe has fact checked that, is giving you that information. I can't tell you in the last 3 days how much false information is coming out of Los Angeles. It is crazy bonkers when I read posts about things that people are saying. I'm like, where are you qualified to talk about this? Like, you are legit not qualified. So I think that that's part of it, is we can't tell what is different, but that doesn't mean we don't have the responsibility to do that. And outsourcing it to other people is our responsibility to take it on ourselves.
I'm going to give one other quick example really quickly.
Oh, forget it.
I'll be very fast. The reason why social media can't do it themselves is how many times do we see that same social media post that says, this thing really works, copy and paste this into your social media and it will change how the list
And
of
everyone
things.
does it.
This is on their own platform about themselves, and they can't even police that.
Right.
Right.
That's
Correct.
a really good point.
How many of times have you found some product that you bought and was wonderful? You know, it's that lotion, that's miracle lotion. Okay, there, and you buy it. You're very happy with it. You continue, and then that company gets sold to another company, and the product has the same label. It has the same name. It's got different ingredients. It's gotten really cheap. That's, I think, where we, the people who are the consumers of social media, are being messed with. In other words, we relied upon this good, solid, honorable institution, and it doesn't exist anymore. Same name, but the institution got bought, changed, sold, whatever. So,
And snake oil has been being sold out of the back of a wagon long before technology showed up, right? So
absolutely.
we're not different. Humans are humans are humans are humans and have been since humans began. We're
And
going to be
wagons are technology.
wagons we're a technology. Thank you. Exactly. I loved it when Graham Kerr looked at my phone and said, that machine. I never thought of an iPhone as a machine. It's like, oh, but from his point of view, he's absolutely right. It's a thing that serves a purpose. And David, I do want to say before I step off my rant here is I will pay you to come back and be on this panel if for no other reason that I heard Leo say, get up on a pole. And I don't know why he said that. That was so far back. It's a funny callback. But just to hear Leo say that just fills my heart.
Oh my God. I've lost all control.
Well, I heard Banksy.
Wait.
Banksy is very famous for his subversiveness, but he had a whole essay inside the shape of a Coke bottle that questioned whether advertising even should exist, because nobody gave them permission to try and influence me. Nobody stood up and said, we're not going to have this. And Eastern Europe had very little advertising, and they were shocked when they came across. I'll tell you that much.
So John asks a similar question, Dave. So he says, is it wrong for a healthcare agency to identify that I am high risk for diabetes and email me information to a free class unhealthy diet? I want that. I want that.
Absolutely.
But that to me is different, I think, than throwing up my hands and saying, we can't police this anymore, so you're all on your own. And
right, but you'd have to take responsibility for your own health. You're not going to rely on some health service telling you what you should be doing. You're going to talk to your doctor.
Of course we do. We rely on our doctors all the time. My wife relies on Dr. Google.
Yeah, but not the health
Googles
service.
every ache.
We signed up for them. We signed up for those messages.
You guys still have doctors? We can't keep them here.
We have doctors, yeah.
We can't keep them here.
All right, so
they last about a year. I'm on number 3 in 2 years.
quick programming note. I actually have a fantastic segue into religion, but I'm afraid I may not be able to use it. I might use it and then we won't talk about religion anyway. But so let's real quick. Let me just bring in a couple more comments here. Let's see. Same technology. Does it change if they are doing it to cut their own cost? If Facebook is doing this to cut their own costs. Interesting. And then Jack Smith, that's why we invented institutions to test the validity of information for us, like regulated media companies, the academy, government agencies, etc. Yeah, we're definitely not getting to religion tonight. That's okay. We'll do
that
it.
is religion, though, isn't it?
That is religion, right? By the way, here's the one thing I'll say about it, and it goes back to street signs, Dave, and that is that one of the many things that has changed for religion because of technology is that I'll give you one Jewish example, a synagogue named Central Synagogue, or Park Avenue Synagogue in New York City. It's a very large synagogue, a couple thousand members. Their last High Holy Days, 2023, their Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day of the Jewish year, their service had 500,000 hits on YouTube. They have a congregation of 2,000, and their service, now I don't know how many people actually watch the whole thing, but 500,000 hits on the day for the live. Religion now is able to reach so many more people outside of the walls of our cathedrals, our churches, our synagogues, our mosques. That's one of the ways that I think technology has impacted, and the way that the role that social media plays in that, I think is really important. One more comment from John Snyder, then I'm throwing it back to you. Lois, you might be surprised at the variety of opinions as to what counts as consent for medical marketing versus care coordination.
Mm-hmm.
That's another good topic. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church, did the book thing with Gutenberg, right? And that was technology that was
book
invented
thing,
to
yes.
persuade people. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, until they started running out of animal skins, all of a sudden Egyptian cotton was blessed with the opportunity to be holy. Like, oh, okay.
So what do we do then, folks, with this? Are we okay with what Meta's doing? Are we not okay with what Meta's doing? Do we wish that X was doing more of this? I until now thought that X was missing out on their responsibility, and I
just drove back from Denver to Seattle, and I technologically had the opportunity of seeing where the storms were, and I could choose whether to go west and then north or go north and then west. And that I traveled for 20 years in a van in the 70s and 80s and did not have that technology other than to where the roads were, but not what was going to be hazardous on them. So that you ask, I think you need to re-ask that question. What choice do we have, David?
There are other companies that one can make discussions in. I'm thinking of the forums that are on Reddit. So there's lots of different topics, forums, and maybe that's the place that I'll go when all of the disinformation starts coming out on Meta.
well, no one's watching over on Reddit either.
Well, it's a business, though. I mean, this is the thing, is that how much money are they spending to pay for fact checkers on something that has the volume that Facebook and that Meta has, the sheer volume of data that comes in? Wouldn't you be better off if you're a business taking that money to develop AI that could do that for you, that could be a program? So, I mean, I can't believe I'm sitting here defending this company, which I do have some real hangups with. But at the same time, from just a pure, I feel like sometimes we try to make businesses responsible for things when they are responsible for being a business.
Yeah, I think I would also add to this one that there's two parts to this. First of all, they're making a decision, which doesn't mean to say that they will continue down that decision. They could always roll back and they could always go in a different direction. They're a business, as Tamara says, so they will make the right decision that they feel is the right thing. If people start moving away to another platform, they'll move it back in another direction. I wonder if you can still poke people on Facebook, because you used to be able to do that, but I don't know if that's still there.
You used to be able to throw a sheep at them.
Absolutely. They got rid of that. So, and I think the other thing is, because of the movement and how fast, you talked about the Gutenberg printing, this was this took ages. We're dealing with things in such short cycles now. We all remember, because it wasn't that long ago, that all of the TV companies told us you're all going to have 3D TVs. 3D is going to happen. You're going to have it. We all bought 3D TVs, and we've all got a stack of glasses sitting in a cupboard somewhere that we wore 3 times. You can't. It's really hard. I think it's great to be discussing these points. Whether they
Aren't
will
you
change,
describing
whether they'll
AI?
stay this
Aren't
way.
you just describing AI? They're trying to tell us we're going to use it for everything, but we haven't yet found the
Yeah,
use for
maybe
it.
we will. Maybe we will.
I
I'm
would say
still
the
going to be
difference is we already
snowboarding
are.
without AI. Tomorrow I will be snowboarding without AI.
Not for
So,
long.
but-
Eventually your
I
goggles will have-
challenge that question. I'll bet you there's AI.
David,
Yeah.
you said, I believe, that this is going to roll out in the US. Is that true? The US
Correct.
not?
That's what he said. Yes.
So is there any way that a person can get hooked up to the Canadian version or the UK version rather than the US version? Is that an option?
Sure, through a VPN.
Through the VPN.
Yeah, you can pretend like you are anywhere in the world. And yeah, absolutely. Let me bring in just a couple more things that Zuckerberg said here, since we're stuck on this. So he says, we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content, but the problem with complex systems is that they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people, and we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. And by the way, it's not just the false information or mistakes that they're not going to be paying as much attention to. They're now changing their content policies around comments made about immigration, gender, other hot button issues. And it's going to focus on high severity violations. I'm not sure what that means. It's moving. I don't know why this is in the article even. It's moving its trust and safety and content moderation from California to Texas. I'm not sure how that factors into this. But the last piece is that he says, the reality is that this is a trade-off. We're going to catch less bad stuff, but we'll also reduce the number of innocent people's posts and accounts that we accidentally take down. Now, in fairness, we've all had experiences where something has been taken down or our account has been frozen. It happened to me. I was off Facebook for 3 months because they froze my account because someone hacked it, posted stuff that wasn't mine. And are we okay with the trade-off?
I think so.
That's a big point, though, because there's so many people who are getting dinged for things that are like not things. And then they have to go through an arbitration process. I don't know if you've ever looked through Facebook trying to get a hold of an actual human. That's not very easy to do. So I think that's what they're saying. They're saying in a way, they're saying we've grown so big that we really can't tell what's important and what's not important anymore. So we're cutting our losses.
And it doesn't matter if we agree or disagree, like it or dislike it. We have absolutely no control over what he does.
So I think that Lois, you mentioned a very important word there, dislike. And that's something that at the moment, you can't say down thumb on stuff. And that is the big thing I think that we need to, if they're going to do this, people have to be able to like it or dislike it. And so many things you cannot say, I dislike or disagree with that point. You only can say yes and smiles, etc. They've got to change that as well.
You want to hear something interesting, Leo? Before we went live, I was showing off some of the new stuff that's coming up in Ecamm Live. One of the new options is that you can toggle a switch that turns off showing dislikes on your video when you're doing a live. So you can actually turn off the ability to see if someone has thumbed down your what you're doing. And
in the hashtag movements that we have survived that storm, I'm going to say that has a very short life possibility. That feature will get that'll be the first thing out the door.
You think the dislike button?
Oh yeah. Because the anxiety of making someone feel bad in any way has been so blown out of proportion that lawyers will completely project that. I don't disagree with you, Leo. I think it's an absolute reality, but we have stepped away from reality, haven't we? We are no longer in truth as a fact, and the confusion of those two things. So now it's whatever makes us feel the best, which again, I think is a great step off to your quote about religion, because I think this last 45 minutes
You got there before I did.
has been the new religion of what is the tradition, and what things do we let go of, what are faith, what do we have faith in, what do we trust, who is the deity in the moment that we look to, who are the prophets that are professing and promoting that deity. So I think we've been discussing religion this whole hour and 15 minutes.
In one way or another. Ernesto is watching. He says, I worked at a hospital ordering filters that were 99.99999% for anesthesia equipment, and I was prevented from commenting about masks on Facebook during COVID-19. Interesting.
So are we going to continue this next week and actually have a religion discussion?
Oh, we'll definitely have a religion discussion. We're not going to continue this. I mean, this was just a train wreck. What?
Maybe next week we can do the discussion first and have the news.
We'll do the news
last
at the end.
15
No,
minutes.
no. Look, there was a lot of. I mean, there was a lot
There's
of.
a lot of news this week.
Yeah,
It
there was a
heavy
lot of
news
stuff
week.
that
We had
came
a lot
up.
of
And we
opinions
didn't
about
even
it.
discuss Jimmy Carter's passing. And
We didn't.
his life of good deeds.
We
Of
just gave him a
service.
moment of silence.
Yeah.
That was it.
It's about as much as we can do, our group.
The
It would
internet.
have been fun if Jimmy Carter could have been a panelist on this show. That would have been exciting.
He could have. You know what? We should all live to be 100. We should all live to have partners that we're with for 70 plus years. And we should all dedicate ourselves in whatever way is meaningful to us to serve others, because that's regardless of how he was as a president, that's what he did with the rest of his life, is serving others. So, all right, my friends, I'm calling it. Here's what I want to say. I'm so grateful to each of you. Yeah, that's what I'm doing too, Sky. I really am. We had 36 comments in YouTube. That's the most we've ever had. It's only because Sky is here, I think. I really think that's the only reason.
It's the scarf.
It's the
and I'll
scarf.
be selling
Leo
them.
from
The scarf. I'm going to go with that.
And I'll be selling them on Etsy.
We're
here
opening a
in,
merch store.
Click the link below and like and subscribe. So
Jack
Pendleton Wool.
Jack and John and Ron and Ernesto and the other people who are watching. I'm Dave Brady. Good to see all of you, and thank you for being here, and thank all of you for joining the panel. I really love learning with you, and we will absolutely come back to the religion discussion. I just need to find out from Leo, because I need you here for that one. I just need to know if you need a week off, because you've been up until 4 a.m. for 2 weeks now in a row.
Next week is fine. Next week's fine. I'll be back in the UK next week. So as long as my aeroplane, which gets me back, so
All right.
I'll be fine.
It'll only be midnight.
That's right. It'll only be midnight. You're right. That doesn't make it much better. Not even. So if any of you would like Sky, would like to hop on the panel with us, please reach out to me in Discord. Just go over to the rundown.show. We'd love to see you here. You're always welcome to share your questions, your thoughts. We try and get as many of those on as we possibly can. And if you have ideas for what you'd like us to talk about, what you'd like us to discuss, let me know that as well. For now, wishing everybody out on the West Coast safety and peace, and just it should be well for all of you, and healing. And for everyone else, thanks for joining us. Leo's dancing. Oh my God. Have a good one. Bye.